All right, now on with the speakers. Our first speaker shares his experience with identity and race with, in the gray area, Josh Grimes.
Has there ever been a point in your life where you felt like you weren't accomplished? Maybe you didn't hold a certain standard, or you didn't meet expectations. Whether it be academically, physically, or a mere lack of experience, it's often difficult knowing that you're just not good enough. In my case, the rejection is skin deep, literally. Racism is a controversial and relevant topic constantly discussed, but it's rarely brought to attention the issue of ethnicities not accepting their own. Over the years, I've heard the same backhanded comments of, "You're not black enough," and "You're a white boy in a black boy's body." But these comments are invalid and hold no meaning. What qualities do I obtain that categorize me as white, and which do I lack that don't make me black enough? People need to understand that personality and race do not correspond with one another. The notion that there's some authentic way of being your given race needs to be disregarded. The way a person chooses to act is based on them, and you act the way you do because of choice, whether or not your actions meet the stereotype of your race. For the first 2 years of elementary school, I lived in a different town. Everyone in my class for those 2 years was white. I was the only black kid. Yet never once did I feel out of place or different from everyone else. None of us took the time to look at the obvious physical differences because we made connections that surpassed our skin tones. It wasn't until third grade that I changed schools, and from then on out, all of my classmates were racially diverse. From the beginning, my fellow African American peers sensed that there was something different about me and that I could not identify with them. I couldn't tell whether it was because I wasn't a fan of the trendy songs that played at the time, or because I wasn't good at what was known as the black sports, and by that I'm referring to football and basketball. I was much more into baseball and was pretty satisfied listening to my Disney Mania CDs. At such a young age, I developed the mindset that most black people wouldn't like me, and that I wouldn't like them. In the same year, I attended a summer camp back in my old town where all of my former white friends resided. I was a member of that camp 2 years prior and was pretty well known there. Once again, there wasn't much racial diversity. Up to this point, besides the tie-dyed colored t-shirts worn by the camp counselors, I was the only other source of color. But things changed this third year, as I was no longer the only black kid. Now, you probably thought that being the only two colored kids found in this all-white crayon box would bring us somewhat closer together. Well, it didn't. Neither of us liked each other. In fact, he didn't like a lot of the kids there. They were all a replica of each other, not only in skin, but in personality, and he was quick to identify me as one of them. Growing up, I always heard that black people needed to stick together, but I never understood why the group that was supposed to accept me was the first to shut me out. As time continued, so did the constant judgment of my black peers. A flock, all one and the same, but amongst my own people, I was ironically the black sheep. Though my blackness has often been questioned due to petty things such as the type of music I listen to and so on, the most ignorant comments would have to be about the way that I speak. I've been told that I talk white. This statement alone makes no sense whatsoever. It disgusts me to think that there are many narrow-minded saps who believe that if you're black and you can speak in full, fluent sentences, then you're being or talking white. By this, you're telling me that every white person has proper grammar, is intelligent, and is educated? Illiteracy exists among every race, and I'm sure we've all seen that for ourselves. It irritates me when I'm confronted or see others being confronted on our choice to speak properly. I cannot stress how annoying it is to be asked, "Why do you talk like that?" Or "Why do you say things like that?" As if the things that come out of my mouth are so profoundly unbelievable and scientifically accurate that Einstein would rise from the dead just to come listen to what I had to say. I speak the way I do because I find it embarrassing if you only speak one language and you can't even speak it correctly. Yeah, you like that? Just because I choose to speak standard English doesn't make me any less black. Giovanni Waters, who was a biracial columnist, released a statement saying thus: It is as if blacks are always fighting to be equal to whites, but are quick to condemn one another for any action that may level the playing field. And it's true. You would think that the appreciation for the articulation in the black community would be much greater, but instead, it is more so overlooked and labeled as an act, which leads to the acting white theory. With talking white comes the allegation of acting white. It seems that today, if you really want to be considered truly authentic, then you need to conform to your racial stereotypes. Society has painted a picture as to what a black person should look and act like, and if you don't fit that image, then you're not really black. I've had my fair share of run-ins with people who have blatantly told me that I faked my personality to gain respect from white people who would never accept me if I were to be my true, authentic black self. I've also been told that I act white to cover up the fact that I'm ashamed of being black. None of the arguments made about me are true. I do not seek to gain approval from anyone or any race, and I'm not ashamed of being black. I love the skin that I'm in, and I have no problem letting it be known. But what I don't like are the expectations and the stereotypes that I'm supposed to follow just because of my skin. What others need to understand is that not everyone is going to behave in the same manner. Not everyone is going to behave in the same manner. My personality is solely based off of me and who I am as a person. I want people to get rid of the connotation that acting white is some type of coping mechanism or that it brings some type of benefits. Acting white won't stop the manager of a high-end store from saying, "Sorry, you're just not the right person we want representing our company," even though I have all the credentials required. Acting white won't stop my teacher from pulling me aside out of everyone in the class to say, "I assume things are hectic where you live, so if you need a quiet place to study, just let me know," even though I practically live in silence because my father's always at work. Acting white won't stop me from possibly being gunned down by a police officer because I look like a threat, even though, as you can see, my appearance is far from threatening. People are stuck on the idea that you need to act a certain way to be authentic, and I want them to know that it's not true, that it's okay to adopt characteristics that aren't stereotypical. The way a person acts is not and should not be influenced by the color of their skin. People need to stop intertwining personality with skin color. Know that if you're black, you don't need to act as a stereotypical black person, and if you're white, you don't need to conform yourself to be the stereotypical white person. Be yourself and embrace it. You sometimes meet the stereotypes of your race and others you don't. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, "I'm going to be ghetto today." If you act ghetto, it's because you probably chose to be that way. The way people need to understand, no, that's not it. People who tell you to act as your own kind only say so in order to feel comfortable with themselves. And this is coming from an intelligent, goal-oriented, well-spoken black man. Thank you.